Hello, Donna Cato here. Welcome to my channel and welcome to this tutorial. It is part of the black and white series that we're doing, and what it is a variation on color replacement. Now, you've seen the polka dot tutorial, or I hope you have, and in that there's some basic information, and you should really watch that one too. Okay, so we're going to start with this offset lopsided circle arrangement in black and white. I like this very much, so let's get started, because what you need is black and white clay. Now, I've rolled this clay through setting number 3 on my atlas, so it's actually, a medium setting. It's sort of a thin medium setting, and I am working with clay that is particularly soft. So you're going to probably witness me having some difficulty in doing this process. Because I have to tell you, when the clay is stiffer, it's easier to do this with thin sheets. If it's very soft, it's more difficult to do. And I think you can understand why. Okay. So then you're going to need a selection of round cutters. Now, these big metal ones are a Tico, and this little guy is, of course, a Kemper cutter, and they are all round. Now, let me tell you, you could use different shapes if you want, but I am just using round ones. All right, so you can see that the clay itself is on pieces of deli paper, and I get this from Costco. And this particular one came in a box of squares, but there's a larger rectangular box with rectangular sheets, and those are fine too. And if you don't have this, you can use parchment paper, but it's very, very important that you work on parchment paper or deli paper through this process. You're also going to need something to burnish. And here it is, here it is, here it is. So I use this nice little brass tube. I got this at a hobby store. You can buy this by the foot or whatever, but they usually have selections of leftover pieces. People don't always buy exactly the length of the rod, so they've got leftovers. So check and see if they have any leftover pieces. This is a very nice diameter, very nice length. Okay, now if you don't have that, you can use like a Bic round stick, anything that's kind of smooth and flat and round like this. You can use knitting needles that don't have, double pointed knitting needle. That would work fine too. All right, so let's get started. Okay, so first of all, the finished size is going to be this. This is what I've been doing with all the other pieces from the series. So whatever the finished size is, you're just going to set this one aside. And then you're going to work with the smaller pieces. Now, I use these a lot. So what happens is I don't always clean them after. So I always do this. See, I've got clay. Doink. So let's cut out of the white first. And then we'll cut out of the black. And when you watch the other, the polka dot, see, look at that. Then you'll get a further explanation, but what has to happen is I'm going to take this out, and when I put this in the black sheet, I will put the other side. So I'm flipping it over. Same thing here. I'm going to lift it and turn it over to the sharp side, not the round side, the sharp side. So let's put this in. And you can see that I am working from the outside in, not starting with the smallest. I'm starting with the largest. And getting it in. Like so. May even lift the white and pull it just a bit out, then push it back in. And this is where working with a softer clay is more difficult, okay? It's just what you have to contend with. All right, now it's possible that I would want to work or make a sheet that is so soft that it's just completely, well, bad. I can't do it right. And in a case like that, of course, I would make these sheets thicker, but I believe I can do this at this thickness and be successful at it. Okay. Now what we do, it's not a race, so just take your time and make sure that you've tucked the cutout into the hole. There we go. That's pretty good. It's not perfect. If the clay were stiffer, I would also, and I just have to be honest, I would have a much a better line. It would not have any irregular bumps. It's just what happens. All right, so you're going to take another piece of the deli paper and you're just going to lightly roll. Now at this point, I'm not really trying to join them so much together. I just want them to stick together, okay? And I'm going to repeat that on the other side. Just like them to be joined together, but not stuck together so hard. Because the more I rub, the more the clay is going to stick to the base. And remember, I've got to cut now and remove more. All right, so let me make another cut. And I want to be able to get this out. Okay, once again, turning over, then fitting it into place. I'm actually taking the tip and I'm trying to catch the bottom of the disc, the bottom of the edge, and then kind of tuck it underneath. All right, so we're going to continue with one. I would repeat doing the same thing on the second, but let's just concentrate on one piece because it would simply be a repeat of what I'm doing here. All right, so now let's move to our last one. Put that in. You see it stuck. So I'm just going to try to get it out like so. And then I will cut into the white. And I don't have to cut into that disc, right? I can cut into anywhere on the white sheet. And then expel it. Oops, that's not a good one. Let's try again. Better. All right, now let's drop that in the hole. Drop it in. Tuck the sides in if necessary. Take the paper and burnish. And now at this point, I will burnish harder. Now the act of burnishing and exerting a lot of pressure on the clay also means that I will probably be transferring a very fine layer of both the white and the black onto the paper, which means that I probably can't use this paper. Well, I might be able to use it again. I might not be able to use it again. It depends on how much of that black clay underneath has actually transferred. When I did it very lightly, I transferred very, very little of the clay. So let's see what happens. Now, as I'm doing this, you guys see how hard I'm rubbing. And I just want to make sure there's no air between the black and the white anywhere. And if there is air, it manifests as a white area. You can actually sort of see the space between them. So if you see that, then you're just going to keep rubbing like that. Okay? And because we're working on the paper, the pattern, the design, the lines stay very true. The clay is not getting thin and stretching out and distorting. And that is the paper. It acts as a dam for us. And it maintains the integrity of the pattern. Okay, so let's just peel it off. And let's see how much of the black I transferred. So I don't know if you can see that. You can see the pattern. It's not really bad. This is not bad. And I would use that again. I wouldn't worry about that. Okay, now at this point, now we're going to go back to our original. This is our end size, the size that we want the piece to be ultimately. So then I'm just going to position it on and cut through. And let's just remove the excess clay from around. Okay, so there you go. And looking at it, I probably could have gone with another couple sizes. I just kind of went every other size because I didn't want it to take too terribly long. But there are sizes in between these in the set, so you can make these circles. You can have a lot more than what I just made. Now, let's texture it. I like texture. So I'm just going, and here's Dusty walking across my table. I do kind of live in a zoo. I have a zoo, but I wouldn't want it any other way. Okay, so there we go. A little bit of texture. I'm telling you, texture hides a multitude of sins. So there we go. Now let's remove it. Now, whenever you're working on paper like this, you want to remember, you never pick at the clay and try to remove it. You're going to try to get the paper off the clay. You might have to hold it down, but I find that folding the paper back like this, not lifting up like this, but folding it back down to the work surface and sliding it across is actually the best way. Now look, I transferred that black, and that's a lot more than I did on the surface, isn't it? This is the one on the surface. This was the one on the black. I would probably not use this one again. Or I will make sure that I use the side that has no clay on it. So just be careful of that. And here we go. There we are. Now that one is done. And now we're going to move on to the pinwheel. I love the pinwheel. I really love it. I love it most when I put it on a pod shape. I don't know. It's just really, I really love it. What can I say? I love it. Okay, so I've got my black clay and I've rolled it through the same setting, which was number 3 on my atlas, and I have my white clay too. So let's just trim it away. And I'm going to cut a nice straight edge here. And I will do the same thing with the white. Okay, Now I have my water bottle here because I may have to spray my blade. Now I cut from this side and I cut down, and I did the same here. So what we have, remember, are the two round edges meeting if I just slide this over. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to turn it over to the sharp side. Now let's get it over, just slide it over, just like that. You know what, this isn't looking good because I see that, so I will cut. The other side actually looked better. Turn it over, and now I will push them together. Now, the clay is sticky, remember that, because it is quite a bit softer. You know, we try very hard to make the clay the same all the time, but it's almost impossible because our ingredients might be different when we get them. But we do our best. But sometimes I've noticed that my white clay is quite a bit softer than it had been in the past. So that's okay. We do the best we can, don't we? Ugh, it doesn't want to leave. So I have to pick it up. And I want to make sure this stays clean. Put it on there. Lift this. Lift that off and put it back. There is always a way. Now, let us lightly burnish the cut. Okay. You want it to stick together as much as possible, but you don't want the clay to stick to that bottom piece of paper. All right, so let's lift this. Now I'm going to take my handy dandy ruler, and if you get a ruler like this, I mean, it's my favorite. It's my Westcott ruler. I have about 5 of them because I'm so afraid of losing them. But they don't look like this when you get them. What they are is totally smooth and clear. But what I do is I take a coarse sanding block and I sand the wrong side of the ruler. And the purpose of that, of course, is to prevent it from sticking. It releases much easier than if it's shiny. If you don't do it, it sticks more. So that's the purpose of sanding. I do this with all my acrylic forms as well. All my acrylic templates, all of those. Take them, I sand them down because they won't stick as readily to the clay. Now, let's try to find the middle. And I love this ruler because it's all, you know, it's ruled. Okay, so yesterday I was having difficulty, so I'm going to spray my blade. I mean, the clay was just sticking like crazy. And I didn't like that. Okay, so let's cut. And it's still a bit sticky, but believe me, that's not as sticky. I was having a heck of a time yesterday. Now, you want to turn it over, and then want to get rid of the water, right? You don't want a lot of water there. So if you find that you have a lot of water, then you might have to wait a few moments. Mine is not too bad. So let me take this and slide it back in. Okay, and I will try to get the white tucked right next to that black. And the white is softer than the black. My white clay is softer than the black. So I put this back on top. And then once again, lightly roll. I'm trying to strike that balance where the pieces do not come apart because I have to cut them and move them. I know, I'm asking a lot. I am asking a lot. All right, so let us cut the diagonal. Now I'm going to once again use my ruler. So I'm putting that 6 line there. And what has happened is the 1 and the 1 are resting on the lines dividing the colors. So that is 45 degrees. Now, I don't want to lift this at all, but I suspect please don't come with me. Please, please don't come with me. Please. Stay, 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 stay. It almost stayed. It almost stayed. Okay. Now, white clay, so sticky. All right, I'm going to repeat and cut the other diagonal like so. Once again, you know, I should find my Armor All. Armor All would probably be better. Stay. Stay. Well, that wasn't too bad. Okay. Now, wherever there's water, I'm going to try to get rid of it. Now, ultimately, I am going to texture, so I will lightly dab with a paper towel. All right. Now, all we have to do is take this and flip them. That's all. Okay, I've dried my blade. Let me see if I can just do this by hand without my blade. I know I keep saying it, but it is easier when your clay is stiff. You have to use different strategies, and you have to actually handle the clay a bit differently. Now, because it's soft, when I pulled it apart, it might not have left a perfectly straight line, which is what I want. So that's not a big deal. You can take the side of your blade and just push it. Now let's take this piece, turn it over, and push it to the center. And there we go. There's one. Now the center isn't perfect because, well, I wasn't perfect. That has nothing to do with the softness or stiffness of the clay. I don't think. I think that's just user error. So let me push that back in the middle and slide that. Then slide them together like so. Okay, so that is your basic pinwheel. Now let's take paper, put it on top, and now this is when we're going to give it a really good hard burnish, because we want those pieces to stick together really well. Okay. Yeah, I really love this little pinwheel. You know, it's simple. It's simple enough when you really think about it. If you're going to make a whole piece like this, it really, even with the showing you that it was a bit more difficult than it has been in the past, it's really not terribly difficult at all. Turn it over, burnish again. Make sure that you have no white between the black and the white. If you see it, take your finger, just push and push and push, and you will eliminate any air pockets between them. All right, so let's do this. So let's remove it. The thing is, because the clay is softer, it's also sticking more. Like so. Let's get the other off. Okay. And we have our sheet. Just like that. Now I'm going to put it back on paper. This was the bad paper. This is the good side. The thunk, like so. And now I will go to that largest. Well, I'm going to use the same size as I did for this. I lost it. I don't know where it went. Oh my God. Okay, well, let's just do it. I'm going to pull it and try to eyeball it like this. Okay, that doesn't mean you can't just do it. Let's do it offset. Why not? I like that. Kind of looks like a beach ball. And as you see how easy it comes apart. That's why when you handle it, you have to be rather careful with it. All right, so let's texture. And I'll tell you, I am making these pieces not because these are going to be used in our ultimate projects. I mean, I don't know that that's not the case, but mostly I'm making these as samples because they might not be actually used when we get to our final project. I mean, I think that they will probably ultimately be used in something, but the way I'm going to teach you how to do these discs doesn't necessarily mean, even if you bake these, they're going to be part of the piece. All right, so that's it for today. A little color replacement, simple. The tools you're going to need to do it. You know, I'll tell you, in my work, these particular pieces have been really useful for me. And so I hope they're useful for you. So until next time, this is Donna. If you liked or learned anything, I hope you'll subscribe, and I hope you'll actually like the tutorial. So until we meet again, goodbye.